to die, to sleep no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache, and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to.
I cannot be alone.
I crave an end to the
I am
pain.
without hope.
I can't.
I'm terrified my lack self.
This is becoming my normality.
You said about sometimes being on that people want you to be a certain way, and sometimes you can't help but be depressed, or just the nature of being.
The reason I cared about suicide prevention, or why I wanted to donate my time and some of my money, was I've lost a couple of people who were close to me. A young woman, Yuki Takasaki, who I knew very well. She was one of my wife's close friends in college, and we spent a lot of time together. We kind of lost touch after college. I guess this happens a lot. We went to a wedding. My wife was in a wedding party. Several years later, she was in an unhappy marriage, and she didn't reach out to anyone, which was very heartbreaking. She just went ahead, took the necessary level of medication, and she died. And you feel so helpless after that happens. You feel like, I wish we'd known. I wish there was something we could have done.
You can't stop people from dying.
Unfortunately, suicide rates are all-time high right now, and it's also the second leading cause of death in California, starting at age 10 all the way to 34.
I am haunted by how you don't love me even in my dreams.
Like, constantly having to interact with people was very draining, even though like I would consider myself an extrovert. I feel like because a lot of good things were happening to me, that I didn't deserve the good things that were happening to me. And so I felt like the way to remedy that was to just take myself out of the equation. That was genuinely how I felt. I felt like I was a burden to many people, including myself.
So this is my life.
By the age of 17, I had been accepted to a UC, and it was just like, oh, thank God, I get to get out of this environment. And I was on a waiting list for on-campus housing, and the financial aid that I had applied for was kind of taking its time being approved as well. So it came down to a point when I thought that it wasn't going to happen. So one afternoon I'd come home from school and got out my mom's gun, and my thought was, I'm sitting here on the floor just like this thing is in my mouth, and I'm thinking, if I do it this way, there's going to be this sunburst blood spatter on the wall behind me. But what if I were to turn like this and make it just like this long spatter? That's the kind of thing that I was going through. I realized to myself that this is all I think I'm worth, is, which kind of blood spatter is going to be most horrific for my mom to come in and see.
What if I cannot be with others?
When Ward was niceness, doctor. When wars, guts. Grenade! Get away! Get back!
Nothing can
I
restore
beg
my
you
faith.
to save me.
Medication and therapy and all that stuff doesn't really work on me. And once I figured that out, I had a very hopeless feeling throughout all of me. I don't really see myself getting better or succeeding or doing anything. And it's hard to see that as my future and continue trying to work for that future.
Our ghosts hide in the things we choose to hide from.
Too many times.
What do you think are the leading causes right now of increased suicide rates.
It's funny, I don't know how many people would agree with me on this, but like a big thing for me is social media.
Social media.
Facebook.
Social media.
At least some forms of social media.
They're using the cell phones and using the computers.
The media overload that has gotten progressively more and more intense over the past 2 decades has really changed the way that we interact with each other.
Especially in the last 10 years, we've pulled back a lot on those personal communications where you do develop those meaningful relationships.
Kids are very mean nowadays. They do not have very much remorse, in my opinion, considering they're behind a screen.
We're retreating further and further into our own little ideological bubbles.
There's very few people who post about their downs. They're always posting about their ups.
We are in a constant state of comparison.
You're surrounded by a constant stream of information telling you how much better off everyone else is than you.
We're also watching this radically widening gap between the haves and the have-nots, if you will. One of the things that helps people weather hard times and, live more satisfying lives is to feel like they have a sense of purpose. When you are in a situation because of systemic economic instability, that your experience is such that you have to take 2 and 3 and 4 Mick jobs just in order to pay your rent, put your food on the table, pay your electricity bill, that sort of thing. I mean, where is the sense of contribution in that? Where is the sense of purpose in that? And it's really hard to have the kind of hope that keeps you driving on.
People in their 50s and 60s, particularly people who hit retirement, very much tend to link their identity and their self-worth to their job. Particularly if they have divorced and they haven't remarried and they haven't found another partner, and then, they may get fired, they may get laid off, they may just hit retirement and the company says, thanks, but you're at retirement age and we don't need you anymore. These individuals have no one to connect to, have no one to share their lives with, and have lost the thing that they tended to define their self-worth from that employment. So I think that's a factor.
The cadence of suffering has begun.
Only love could heal our brokenness.
Definitely COVID is one of the big factors as well. It really isolates kids and doesn't give them the support they need.
I've noticed an uptick in just kind of like the feeling of loneliness kind of thing. Because a lot of times before it was more of like, they had a specific event is what I noticed. Their wife divorced them and cheated on them, or, there was something that I could pinpoint. Like now it's been a lot more of like, I just feel like there's nothing I can do and there's nobody I can talk to. I don't have any support. And I just feel like I'm like wasting away.
We need human contact. Human touch, being able to be social with other people, unless you do live in a household where you've got people with you that you can share with and, have physical contact with, it's gonna hurt.
I'm so lucky that I'm happy to be married to someone who I'm holding in my arms every night when I go to sleep.
You're not defective.
We all have darkness inside
You're
of us.
allowed to feel messed up.
Just stay there, looking at each other.
We are not to blame for our illness.
Started off as just a voice in the head. Nothing was said or anything, and mostly it was fine by then. Then it became more of like an enemy. It became more of like, well, nobody cares about you. You should kill yourself. Like, why are you even here? Nobody would care about you. You have no friends. No one loves you.
There is no drug on earth that can make
We
life
accept
meaningful.
love we think we deserve.
Tears are words that need to be written.
The technical term for it is anhedonia, a lack of an ability to experience joy, and a loss of the ability to take joy in things you once did take joy in. Just the deadness inside was the one primary symptom that just worsened as you know, my teenage years went on.
So you know how like people say like when you die, like your whole life kind of does that. That is kind of what happens, or what happened for me at least, right before I tried to kill myself. But okay, the weird thing was like it was my life, but it was only the times I fucked up or did something wrong, and it was every time I'd ever done something wrong.
Be very aware of a sudden mood swing to the positive. Like your friend's been down and they've been depressed, and the next day suddenly, nope, I'm fine. I'm really feeling good. It's often a sign that they've decided to kill themselves and they're no longer racked by indecision. I'm not sure what today's equivalent is, which shows what a dinosaur I am, but you know, if someone was giving me a record collection, or they, you know, was giving me their favorite DVDs, or was giving me books, and it's like, oh, I know you love this book. You should, you know, you should have this. I mean, that's another decision step on, I've decided to kill myself. I'm going to say goodbye to people. I'm going to give the things that matter to me to people who I know will appreciate them, because, you know, I'm no longer going to need them.
I literally had to have like a box cutter to open up these little stupid sandwiches. I went down to the wrist, and then I felt the cold of it, and then I like stopped and broke out of my trance. Like I was like, it was like I was in a trance of some sort.
For a time, I was drinking and doing drugs and stuff because it's just the easiest way to kind of not think about it.
I remember the day I started writing the suicide notes. I'd written one for my mom, my girlfriend at the time, my sister, my best friends. I had gotten to that point and I was ready, and I had set my date and everything. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying to think about that time period in my life. I had gone up to the same place that I had planned, which is overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge. Nice view, late at night. And I just stood on the edge of the cliff. And the breeze had knocked me over. And I started to slip, and something in my brain grabbed onto like that fence, that like pole. And I knew that there was some part of me that wanted to stay alive. So in honor of that part of me, I haven't tried since.
I do not want to live. I am jealous of my sleeping lover and covet his induced unconsciousness. When he wakes, he will envy my sleepless night of thought and speech unslurred by medication. I have resigned myself to death this year. Some will call this self-indulgence. They are lucky not to know its truth. Some will know the simple fact of pain. This is becoming my normality.
A smile, a kind word, a listening ear.
It's okay to ask for help.
Letting your friends know that you're there for them, just checking in on them a few times, that makes my day so much better, because it lets me know that I'm wanted. It lets me know that like they want me to stay around. Even someone like sending you a meme on Instagram, like, you thought about me, you thought I'd find this funny or I'd relate to it, and that shows that you care. It's very simple things.
Open acceptance and unconditional positive regard was actually really helpful for me at the time.
I think that there's just that little bit of like, problems with people starting to see it almost as a number more than like, hey, this is a person that has a story and let's learn that story. Let's see, you know, there's certain things that we can do to help them if we know their story. You know, if we know what the trigger was, if we know what their support system was, not just, hey, did you take some pills today? That's not going to necessarily help you.
You know, I actually like what I've seen in terms of people pushing the availability of video therapy, and I hope that stays. That to me, that's a really positive change that's come out of everyone being forced to stay at home. The idea of, you know, I could do everything else on Zoom. Maybe I could see a therapist on Zoom. Particularly if you're in a cultural subgroup where, you know, your parents and peers, you know, are very dismissive of psychological help. The idea that you could actually just do it in your bedroom on your laptop, I think is, you know, a wonderful thing that could make treatment more effective.
We have ways of teaching families how to recognize and how to deal with warning signs and how to help people who are suffering and not put the blame on them, and, you know, help them feel supported and loved.
And I'll just hang out and talk to them. I mean, I've never had an issue with that, as long as I don't have, obviously, like emergent calls and stuff like that. But I'll just talk to people. And a lot of times, I mean, I've seen them kind of come back to reality when I've done that, which has been cool just to see in my experience. So I've kind of prided myself in this. So I've been a cop for 5 years, and I've responded to a lot of suicidal people, and I've never forcefully taken them to the hospital. I've always been able to talk somebody into going to the hospital.
It is incredibly difficult and incredibly impressive to be able to ask for help, to go to therapy.
I mean, I think if you find the right therapist, it's very powerful and really helps.
Like, therapy is what helped me, but it has to be the right time. You have to be willing, and it has to be the right person.
It's a cognitive behavioral therapy technique to recognize, to be mindful of when you are starting to ruminate on negative things and tell yourself all the negative talk that you do to yourself, and to be mindful of that and to just sit with it for a little bit, to interrupt that and, you know, not beat yourself up for it, but just kind of say, I'm going to consciously replace that now with, you know, my Rolodex of gratitude, you know, my Rolodex of things that I have to be grateful for.
Throughout therapy and stuff, there were a lot of breakthroughs that I went through, like, genuinely, like, I said I was proud of myself and, like, meant it. Like, that's a big deal for me.
Whenever it comes to it, always contact someone. You have friends, you have family, you can contact anybody for support, and they will always be there for you.
Please believe that there are people that are around you that want to keep you here. Realize that you are a full person already. And truly, what you are missing is your ability to love yourself.
Battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gonna away. They never gonna change, these battle scars. Fighting with depression is literally like a battle. And yes, there will be scars left over from it.